thank the maker they pulled it off. It's been a while since I've travelled back to Thedas, but this show has made me want to jump back into the Dragon Age series. It's done its job. It's left me hungry for Season 2 and hungry for the release of the 4th game, Dreadwolf. G'day, welcome to the Nerdy Dad channel and my review and discussion of Dragon Age Absolution. Let's get the basics out of the way. Absolution is a 6-episode animated series which was directed by Ki-Yong Bai and it was released on Netflix. Okay, to better understand where I'm coming from with this review, you probably need to know what my relationship with the Dragon Age universe was going into the show. I've played all 3 of the base games, but none of the DLC or expansions. I also haven't read any of the books or comics. So, long story short, while I'm no lore expert, I'm not new to the world either. I love these games, as I do almost everything that BioWare releases, going all the way back to the Baldur's Gate series. Let's get into it. In a thumbs up, thumbs down world, this show is definitely a thumbs up from me. I like the animation style. It reminds me quite a bit of other animated properties that I like, such as Dragon Prince and The Legend of Vox Machina. And this actually worried me a little bit when I first saw the trailers, because it looked like a generic fantasy show and I didn't see anything of Dragon Age in it. But having watched the series, I can tell you I needn't have worried. In my opinion, the characters are extremely well crafted and the world is most definitely Thedas. The show also gives us a good look at Tevinter before we find ourselves there in Dragon Age Dreadwolf. So, I've got a question for you guys now. Did you like the show? And how well did you know the world of Thedas before going in? Let me know down in the comments. I mean, I'm genuinely curious to see what everyone else thinks and how their knowledge of the franchise impacted what they feel about the show. Okay, so I'm going to head into spoiler territory now. So if you haven't watched the series, it's time to jump off for a moment and you can come back and join me after you've seen it. I'm going to start the spoiler part of the review with a negative. While I liked the animation style overall, I did not like the way the dragon was depicted. The dragon just looked like it was from a different show and it didn't work for me. But the dragon wasn't on the screen all that much. And the fact that I found its look off-putting definitely has not put me off from the show, because the central element to the story are these wonderfully crafted characters at its heart.
And after this, we can go to the hinterlands and make cheese for all I care, so long as we're together.
I so desperately wanted to believe that Hera was a good character, and for 4 or 5 episodes I essentially did. In the end though, I think it's good writing that I didn't get what I wanted. And her action set up, well, it looks like they set up a Season 2, but for all we know, it could potentially be a plotline in Dreadwolf, which, by the way, I'm now really hoping we get to see some, if not all, of these characters again in Dreadwolf, as well as in a Season 2. By the end of the season, we know what Hera's motivation for assembling the team and going after the Circulum was. But I'm now really interested into why Fairbanks was there. Perhaps he was just seeking the Circulum for the Inquisition, as it appeared originally that they all were. But with all the double crossing that happened, I'm less sure.
It's okay, Miriam. The guards, the theft, none of it matters. No one's going to hurt you. You're with me now. With your family.
Call me an old sap, because despite what we know about the Tevinter Imperium, I also wanted Rezarin to turn out to be a good, if misguided, character. It's clear that because of his upbringing, he thought he was in the right. He thought he was the good guy. But from any reasonable person's perspective, with the knowledge that, owning people, or else for that matter, is wrong, he clearly was not. Tassia, however, might be a different matter.
First rule of combat, guardsmen. Never take your eyes off the enemy.
I really love this character. More than I really love this character, it looks like she was a genuinely good person inside the Imperium. But I'm now not sure she's going to stay that way. I mean, I don't know whether it was meant to be a romantic interest or not, but she obviously cared for Rezarin a lot. And Miriam killed him. I mean, whether or not Miriam was in the right to do so, all Tassia knows is that a person she loved was murdered by a thief, whose actions, directly and indirectly, also killed a lot of soldiers under her command. Tasia is right to be angry. And by angry, I mean really, really pissed. She has no reason to see Miriam as anything other than a murderer, who's helping a madwoman, by the way, who wants to destroy her entire country. So, if there's a series 2, she's likely to be out for revenge, which means she's likely to be out hunting Miriam. Before I talk about Miriam, I really need to talk about Gideon.
Oh, okay.
We get no backstory, no real character development, but there's still something about Gideon's personality that just drew me in. Look, in general, I have not liked the Canary Party members we get in the games. Sorry, Ironball stands, I just don't like him. But Gideon managed to get my attention, and I hope she gets more screen time if we get a season 2, because her character could really use some fleshing out to go with the bones of that delightful, bubbly personality. Rounding out the party are the fighters. Well, lovers and fighters. Roland and Lachlan. Like Gideon, these characters could really use some more fleshing out if we get a season 2. The showrunners seem to think that giving them a romance replaced the need to give them any character development. And unlike Gideon, their personalities just didn't grab me the same way. Having said that, if I was in a scrap, I don't think there are 2 better people to have at your back. Lachlan's gruff, "Oh, I don't care, I'm in it for the money" exterior, and he has a heart of gold underneath. And Roland seems to be a pretty good guy, who just trusts Miriam implicitly. I'd like to know why he trusts her so deeply, although, from what we've seen so far, he doesn't seem wrong to do so. Which brings us to the heart of the story, our protagonist Miriam. And she is our protagonist. We're cheering for her all series. However, if we weren't seeing it from her perspective, she really murders a lot of people. And, most of it's in self-defense, but not always. It's really complicated. I mean, directly, Hera probably killed the least people of our protagonist. And yet, she is the one responsible for most, if not all, of the death and carnage that takes place throughout the series. Except for Rezarin. He 100% brought his death upon himself. I mean, and then we have Miriam. She is a killer. She shares a hatred of Tevinter with Hera, and she directly kills a lot of people. But in most, if not all cases, when it's not self-defense, she's trying to save Hera. I mean, there's a couple of guards at the start who maybe she could have snuck around or knocked out, but in the whole, she doesn't have a lot of good choices. I mean, hell, if Rezarin had simply let her go, and his obsession go, he'd still be alive. And there's probably a lot more I could say about these characters and the series, but for now I'm going to wrap it up here. Let's keep this conversation going down in the comments. Let me know who your favourite character is. I'm really curious. Alright, so why don't you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. This is the Nerdy Dad, signing off.